I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education open agenda meeting for February 15th, 2018. And Mrs. Saradaki, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Boroff?
Here.
Ms. Brody?
Here.
Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mrs. Soriani?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Ms. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting was given to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and also to the Times. And we met in executive session and discussed personnel, HIB, suspension and detention reports, and legal status. And what I thought would be appropriate tonight before we begin is to maybe have a moment of silence and think about the recent tragedy in Florida. So if we could take a minute. Thank you. I know that's on our mind, but we are going to begin with something uplifting here in Scotch Plains, and that is with a instructional update about our writing workshop. And so I'd like to turn that over to Dr. Mast, or did you want to say a few introductory words?
Dr. Mast is pointing to me. So tonight we are featuring a window into our middle school writing program. As a district, we are part of the Tri-State Consortium, and recently we hosted a consultancy where 10 colleagues from the Tri-State, these are high-achieving districts from New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, came together to give us feedback on our writing program, district-wide. Tonight, the report will be presented by Liz McKenna. That report will be given to us by Liz McKenna in the near future, but tonight, we want to welcome Jocelyn Dumaresque, who is our middle school principal and formerly our language arts supervisor. And she is going to give us a treat because she has with us her students tonight who are going to share their insights into how we are doing writing in our middle school. So welcome, Dr. Dumaresque.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Good evening, everyone. Let's adjust this a little bit. Thank you for having us tonight. So for the board, what you don't know about the writing workshop is that, or you might know, you might not know, we have two different language arts classes at the middle school level. We have our language arts class, and then we have writing workshop. And this time to have two language arts classes, which is really quite unique for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, was made possible because of some work done 7 years ago with Dr. Hayes, who wanted to provide more time for middle school students to really focus on language arts and also math in the middle school schedule. So when we made this change 7 years ago, we really wanted to focus the writing workshop on being a true workshop. And what that means is giving kids the maximum amount of time to really work on their writing in class under the direction of their writing teachers. So when you enter a writing workshop classroom, and we'll get a little bit of a window into that from the student's perspective tonight, you'll see kids writing, which is exactly what we want you to see. You should see kids reflecting, kids conferencing with peers, kids setting goals for themselves, kids conferencing with their teachers, so that there's this continuous process of writing, reflection, improvement, and growth. And what's exciting tonight is that, I could stand up here and talk about writing all night, but the kids really have the insight into what it means to be a writer in writing workshop at Park Middle School. So I've brought two very different writers tonight. We have TJ Baylock and Emily Wyra, who are here tonight to talk about their experiences being a writer at Park. And they're both 8th graders, so they've had writing workshop for 3 years. And like I said, they're very different writers. They approach the process very differently. And I think you'll see, because they're going to talk tonight, that their writing is also has a very different style to it. And the great thing about writing workshop is it's tailored to meet these students' needs and to help them grow and succeed in different ways. So just like we did with the Tri-State Consortium, where we welcomed in critical friends to give us feedback and insight, tonight, TJ and Emily are going to give us some feedback and insight on their life as a writer at Park. So, TJ, come on up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
For so many people, writing is such a hard subject to grasp because of its boundlessness and complexity. Unlike many other subjects students take, writing doesn't contain that one definitive answer, which can lead students down a path of unpredictability and uncertainty. For the students who don't grasp the art of writing through natural means, literary assignments can be the worst. A predicament of this magnitude can be a detriment to anyone's success as a writer. But luckily, myself and many of my peers don't have to fear any assignments thanks to Writing Workshop. The objective in Writing Workshop is basically to become better writers, and unlike other classes, we focus intently on the progress we are making. Different than other classes, Writing Workshop allows for all students to really grasp how to write with confidence. One significant attribute to our goal are the teacher conferences. Conferencing with the teacher really develops our writing while at the same time giving us the opportunity to really get the information to stick on our minds. We as students are given recommendations on how to improve our writing, and then we in turn have to make the revisions and edits using the teacher feedback. With this process, we acquire the knowledge and then implement it, which in turn allows us to fully comprehend the recommendations given. Conferences, like so many other strategies implemented in Writing Workshop, are perfect ways to benefit all students writing. And just like me and all my friends, we will be able to take the information we have acquired over the years and use it in the years to come. Our writing will be forever impacted, and the lessons we have learned over the years because of Writing Workshop, I know, will carry over through everything we do and in everything we pursue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. And now I'd like to invite Emily up to give her take on her life as a writer at Park.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Emily, but most of my friends call me Em. And let me start by saying if you asked any one of those friends to tell you 3 things about me, they would probably mention I love Disney, I am pretty good at debate, and I love to write. Based on this alone, you've probably gathered that I have quite a lot to say about the writing program in our district, and that I write enough where I do kind of know what I'm talking about. Okay, for starters, I want to talk a little bit about some amazing experiences that I've had in our writing program, starting way back when I was in the 4th grade. So picture me 4'6", so even tinier, and completely petrified of people, not knowing I loved to write. Not exactly a pretty picture. I always thought that writing was a fun thing, but never that it was as important to me as it is now. So back then, to my surprise, I got into Evergreen's amazing writing enrichment program led by Mrs. Close. I owe her such a great deal, as it instilled a love of the art in me. It was that enrichment that probably got me up here, that got me blogging and storytelling, and sometimes just ranting my thoughts down onto the page. I really wish that we had more enrichment like that in all of our schools, as I owe it such a great deal. I have also found that my English teachers have shown a passion for the art and craft of writing, providing me with the fundamental skills as well as someone to relate to. I feel so lucky to have learned from such incredible people. Now, I was asked to talk about my writing process, but I'm not so sure that I have that much to talk about. My process is to write. That's just about it. Sometimes I start with a bare bones topic or theme, and then I just write it down. Sometimes I start with, we need to ensure women in our society get equal pay, and others I start with, the kitchen was on fire for the 3rd time that week. I hack away at my keyboard for ages until I've deleted, revised, changed, added, and moved things enough that I can call whatever it is that I've got a draft. During that time, I almost never let anyone read it. Whenever I'm typing on my laptop and say I'm writing, my dad still asks me, "Can I read it?" Funny, Dad. Really, I'm laughing on the inside. It was a nice try. You can ask him, it is true. Once I have a draft down, however, I do ask for a second set of eyes, which usually belong to my mom, to look at it. This evidently does not sound exactly like the process we are taught in writing class, not in the slightest, to be frank. But for this introvert who does not really love group work, it is perfect. However, I am graded on pre-writing, revising, editing, and almost always forced to conference with my teacher and peers to get feedback. In 8th grade, though, we do less conferencing, which I do appreciate. I am completely for getting feedback once a piece is done. Introverts learn very differently than extroverts do, and in a writing class where so many of us feel more at home, group work can be challenging. If I were to change anything, I'd want to be able to use the process that works for me and gets the best product out of me. I appreciate that many students who may need more guidance get that, but do feel that those of us who enjoy the more independent aspects of writing should be able to do what works for us, as long as the quality of work doesn't suffer. On another note, I am also a very firm believer that writing is an important art. Yes, technical essay writing and literary analysis are important building blocks. Everyone needs to be able to write an essay, but I feel like we spend so much time and effort on the structure and characteristics of an essay that we forget that there are a couple more things that go into it. Writing to express opinion and emotion is growing to be a lost art. We spend so much of our year focusing on how to properly structure an essay that when it's done, it's a bit monotone. Like I said, I totally understand the importance of technical writing, but I think there needs to be a better balance between that stuff and more creative things. For example, back in the fall, I was chosen to participate in an arts integration workshop led by Mrs. Prestridge and Ms. Hanner. I am so lucky to have been there. Not only could I use the process that I use, but I was able to truly express myself in a supportive environment. I think that we need more of that in our district. This year I have started getting my wish. We have been studying editorials, writing with voice, among other creative things. I have thoroughly enjoyed this and would love to have seen it start a bit earlier than 8th grade. Now, I could probably stand up here and talk about the good and the bad for another hour, but then you'd be bored and that would defeat the purpose of my being here. So instead, I leave you with this little closing. We have a wonderful writing program in our district, and I hope that we will build upon it to make it an even stronger one for even more students. Thank you.
So I do just want to say thank you again to TJ and Emily. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to come up here and speak, not only in front of the board, but also to be on TV and do that. So thank you guys. You did a wonderful job. And again, two very different writers approaching the process in very different ways. Aspects of the course that, benefit TJ, who talked to me a lot about how he loves conferencing and how that's improved so much. And Emily, who's kind of like, leave me alone for a little while, let me do it, and then give me the feedback. And the great part about that is that we're taking that critical feedback from Tri-State, from our students, and we're working to continually improve our writing practices here in the district. So thank you, Dr. Hayes and Dr. Mass, for hosting that for us. Thank you for students for continuing to give us that feedback, and I hope to continue to work with our middle school students and the district to make writing amazing for all kids. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if the board has any questions that they would like to ask. If the students would like to come up, there might be questions for them as well. I know our curriculum committee gets to hear a lot of these things more in depth, and I remember when this was introduced as a pilot, so it's wonderful now to be hearing the kind of feedback that we're getting tonight. So let me open it up and see if the board has any comments or questions that they would like to ask. Mrs. Siriani?
I'd just like to say thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts on the Writers' Workshop. I sit on the curriculum committee, so I've heard a lot about Writers' Workshop, and we've heard from Mrs. Prestridge on the Arts Integration Program, and it's very impressive, but we haven't had the opportunity to hear feedback from the students, which is the most important feedback. So thank you for coming and sharing. I really get a sense of who you are and your personalities and your uniqueness from hearing your writing, so thank you so much.
I'd like to second that, in that you're both excellent speakers, and I appreciate the time you took to come out to speak on behalf of that program. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you as well, and to ask, do you have any opportunities to actually do team writing? Do you do co-writing? Do you do projects with other, or is that, I don't know what you'd call that, but.
We have actually done some pieces like that.
Can you just talk in the microphone, because it helps the audience at home, so.
Okay, so we have done certain pieces like that, and that has helped us to kind of integrate many forms of writing from different people in the group, and it's kind of helped to create one kind of just overall a better piece, because we're getting so many more opinions and so many more writing styles, and it just overall makes the piece better. So yes, but we have gotten a chance to do that.
I mean, as Dr. Dumas said, you can imagine TJ and I are very different writers, but when we collaborate with some of our classmates, sometimes that does produce a very solid product that works well.
Thank you.
I mean, it's hard, but after talking with the whole group, it ends up becoming something that you couldn't do on your own. So it's very effective.
Anyone else? I want to thank you all. So I do want to say what you're doing. I'm sure your mothers have said to you, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. So collaborating, and also that it really is real world. You know, in life, groups are really having to come up with one product, whether it's in business or at a university, and giving each other feedback on a report or a document or whatever. So it's wonderful that you all are having those experiences now. Like you said, they'll serve you well in the future. And thank you for giving us this feedback. We really appreciate you coming tonight. So thank you very much. And Dr. Dumaresque, thank all the teachers too, because I heard the students mentioning the passion that their teachers have and that they've shared with them for writing and things like the arts integration and trying different methods. And so please share our appreciation to them as well.
And I want to add my thanks as well. I do remember when Writing Workshop first started as a 3-day on, 3-day off course, and then it migrated to being 5 days a week, which was a wonderful step forward. And now that we've allowed it to flourish, the feedback that we're getting from Tri-State and our critical visitors will help us enrich that. So I just also want to thank not only the teachers for their work every day with the students, but also for the incredible effort that they put into hosting the visit from Tri-State, and Dr. Mast as well, with her leadership, with our participation with that group. Several of the teachers recently, and I meet with them monthly, representatives from the building, said, you know, they were really nervous about having people come, but the student interviews and the teacher interviews, they felt really relaxed and very honored. Because the student voice came through loud and clear in those visits. And you see great evidence of it tonight with TJ and M. Thank you. That's all I can tell you. I wish that I had that presence that you have when I was your age. I wish I'd had what you have now. You're doing a great job, and we really want to thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we've come to the portion of our meeting where the opportunity for the public, according to the Scotch Plains Fanwood bylaws 0164 and 0165, to come to the microphone and speak. There is a maximum of 2 minutes, and our attorney will try to keep us on track, mainly so everyone can have a chance to speak. When you come to the microphone, if you'd like to speak, please give us your name and the town in which you reside. Is there anyone? Okay.
Good evening, Superintendent Hayes, President Bauer, and everyone else here tonight. My name is Matthew Skolar. I'm a sophomore at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. I'm here tonight to talk about...
Town?
I'm from Scotch Plains.
Okay.
I'm here tonight to talk about school security. Yesterday, America witnessed the third worst school shooting in the history of its existence. Time and time again, mentally ill people get their hands on deadly weapons, walk into schools, and shoot several people in the matter of seconds. In fact, yesterday's incident at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, marks the 18th gun-related incident at an American public school in what has only been the first 7 weeks of the year. Unfortunately, we live in a time where, as students, we have to worry about mass shootings. And why is that? It is because our society does not do enough to protect students. So, a fire alarm going off could represent a danger to us now, as it did in Florida. A suspicious object could represent danger. A mentally ill child who the school doesn't treat can represent a danger. I understand that our schools take security very seriously. However, that doesn't mean we are perfect. So I would like to know what the district is going to do, in addition to what it already does, to prevent these types of events from ever happening in our schools. Because the only thing a student should ever have to worry about is their studies. The only thing a teacher should ever have to worry about is teaching. And the only thing a parent should ever have to worry about is being a parent, not their livelihood. Thank you.
Okay. We couldn't agree with you more in terms of the sentiments that you expressed. I think I speak for all the board members that these kinds of events are horrifying for us on many different levels. You know, certainly as parents, as community members, as board members, we feel an extra responsibility, and in our ongoing work, security is certainly one of the things that we discuss on an ongoing basis. You know, that's safety and security is, you know, primary concern. So I know I can, Dr. Hayes might want to say a few words, and maybe Mrs. Saradaki, because I know that on an ongoing basis, not only do we have the kinds of safety plans that you're aware of and you referenced when you were speaking, but we have a very close relationship with law enforcement in both towns. And so it's not just that a safety plan is in place, it's constantly being reviewed. And there are many, every time, unfortunately, something happens, particularly in a school, there usually are lessons learned. And those are then immediately shared. Best practices are adapted. The police are certainly also very concerned that nothing happens here. And so that communication is really constant and ongoing in terms of procedures and policies being updated. That being said, there's a limited amount of detail that we could ever discuss, because discussing anything in public specific is what we don't want to do, because you don't know who could be unhinged, and we wouldn't want to give any information away and plans and details. And so I think in general, if citizens have suggestions, a question, about anything specific would be really helpful if they would reach out to the superintendent. I mean, certainly we all want to do the best we can do. And if they think it's something that could have been, overlooked or they've heard, about, it could be that it's already in place. But certainly that's something that, we would hope people would feel free to do, but not that we would want to discuss in public, because if we did implement it, this is just not the forum.
Right, I understand.
So, New Jersey is one of the leading states in terms of school security. We have tighter regulations and expectations from the State Department of Education than they do in most states. So you as a student know, you experience this directly in schools, because we are required to do safety drills, we are required to have safety plans in place. But we even go beyond that, in that we invite critical friends, similar to what you heard tonight about the Tri-State. We have had the New Jersey Department of Education come in and directly observe some of our drills and give us feedback. We have worked closely with both police departments, and they've given us feedback. And we now have the Office of Emergency Management in Scotch Plains that is giving us feedback. Whenever we have a horrific incident, as it just happened yesterday, our police and law enforcement over time do get critical information, as Mrs. Bauer has said. They meet with us at least annually and more often as needed. They meet with myself and our cabinet, and they meet with our principals. They share their ideas and best practices and suggestions, and many of them have been implemented in our schools. The collaboration that we have with our two police departments is really extraordinary. They are there at a moment's notice for us. They have improved their procedures as well. Today I was on the phone with both chiefs of police relative to the incidents that took place yesterday. They indicated to me some things that they were going to do, and I was very grateful for that support. We all live in an age where collectively we all have to take responsibility for everyone's safety. So one of the things that we value is that I didn't get a ton, but I did get a few emails today from people who had suggestions that I did reach out to every one of the parents that reached out to me today and spoke with them by phone, because we want to encourage that kind of dialogue. Students can help us as well by sharing with their principals, sharing with guidance counselors insights that they have. We pride ourselves in this community of being very supportive of one another. It shows in so many ways. And without making reference to specific incidents, I can tell you that the information that comes to us via students is extremely helpful in our investigating particular concerns and ensuring that any students that need particular support are more likely to get the support as needed. That can go a long way in terms of helping to prevent crises. Can we guarantee that we can prevent all crises? No, we can't. We'd be foolish if we thought we could live in that land. But we do work very collaboratively in such a way that I believe that everything that can be done, we're moving forward with. This is a process that is ongoing, and I say that respectfully because if you had asked me 15 years ago if I would have ever had to have been concerned about X, Y, or Z in schools, it was unheard of. And each time one of these incidents takes place, it enables us to recalibrate. So things and practices that perhaps in the past people would have said, well, what do you mean you want me to show ID cards when I come into the school? What do you mean you're going to question me as to who I am? Don't you know? I'm John's parent. You know, you've seen me a ton of times before. As these incidents take place, people shift their schema around that. So some interventions that perhaps we might not yet have put into place, I am confident that as we move forward with putting them into place, we will get support from our community to do that. because each time you increase security, you also increase inconvenience for some people. You want to balance the culture and the climate in the school as an open, welcoming place with security. And those are, the combination of those can be challenging to find. But I will tell you that with Mrs. Saradaki's support and that of the other folks here at this table, the work that we've done in our school over the last 5 to 7 years has dramatically changed what's in place. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for her leadership. Recently, we met with a company that has given us feedback on some of the, what we call the target hardening and the specific ways in which notifications go out, and they've given us feedback. We are working with our Facilities and Finance Committee to move some of those things into implementation for next year. But again, as Mrs. Bauer said, this is not the forum for me to stand up and say, so next week, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, look for this, 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 and this. Because as the police have said to me, we want some unpredictability around these things because we don't really want to share in a way that would actually undermine the goal that we're trying to achieve.
And I would just like to chime in with that in terms of taxpayer dollars, because one of the responsibilities we have is to balance the needs of the schools, student success, and the funding. We're all taxpayers here. And so while we may talk about the new air conditioning that we had to replace because there were just no more parts available because it'd been there for decades and decades, we didn't highlight what we were doing maybe in security, because we don't really want to advertise those things that we were doing.
But I also want to thank you for coming out, and your fellow student who's with you, I see, because your voices are helpful to us. And as we move forward, we can work with all of our principals to invite that student voice into the process, because we know that you have insights that will be helpful to us.
And I just did want to add, Dr. Hayes, that as a parent, I see some parents here, we're all parents, all these children. I do feel a collective responsibility for the students in our district, and I feel that very strongly. I think we all do. And as Dr. Hayes said about, if you have ideas, as board members, we get things to read that help us learn as well, questions that we need to ask. Just today we got an email from the director of the New Jersey School Boards Association talking about the incident, laying out several things that recommending that we as board members read and talk about and ask questions. So I would also encourage, students can have a role, but parents as well. Call, send the email, do whatever, ask the question. If there's a best practice out there, it's we're all in this. We're all in this, together. And those are the kind of things that we read, so that we can ask, questions as well. That's all. I just wanted to add. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lucy Burse. I live in Scotch Plains, and my oldest son, oldest of 3, is in kindergarten at Coles. And I spoke to you, Dr. Hayes, earlier. I appreciate the call. And thank you, because this is exactly why I'm here. And it's so good to hear that students are stepping up and communicating about this important issue as well. So I don't want to reiterate anything that's been said, but basically, as a mother, and I know many others share my concerns, I just want to make sure that we're really doing everything that we can possibly do and find out, are there things that we can do that perhaps we didn't think we could or should afford a week ago, a year ago, 5 years ago? And if that's the case, is there something that we as parents can do collectively to raise the funds? I have a lot of questions. I want to keep it general in the interest of avoiding any details about security. Things that I've thought about today include, are we actually observing all of the rules and protocols? Are they being enforced across the board as well as they should be, not just on the part of staff members, but on the part of parents? Are they giving people a hard time when they have to show their ID for something? Are people propping the doors open unnecessarily? Are we safe not just at the actual schools, but at sporting events related to school or other activities? Is our knowledge up to date given tactics used in most recent shootings? And are there simple measures we could add or employ that might not cost a lot, that we just hadn't thought of, that maybe neighboring towns are doing? I know there's some things they do in Summit that maybe we don't do here that maybe we should consider doing.
2 minutes is up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is my time up? And just one last quick question. Do all of these measures include special consideration for special needs students? My son has ADHD, and he has a really hard time following direction. In an emergency situation, is that given consideration? And given all of the concern that we have, does it make sense for us to start a task force that involves parents and possibly students as well to help support all of you in your efforts? Thank you.
So we appreciate your concerns, and I'm glad you realize that you can also make these connections and share these kinds of questions with the superintendent and with us. I'm sure that the protocols address special needs students. I don't know that, again, they want to go into details right here tonight. And also, I lost my train of thought, but there was something, other communities. Just so you know, we do have various vehicles to meet with other community members. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting in 2 weeks with the presidents of the boards of education of Summit, Berkeley Heights, Westfield, and so forth, sharing just best practices and challenges in our district. So we do have regular opportunities, and the superintendents meet regularly as well, the business administrators, so forth. So there is that kind of sharing across districts. Everybody's looking for answers in many areas, but this one as well.
So at the superintendent's level, for example, we have come together as a group of superintendents. We have had the Union County Prosecutor's Office come to our meetings. They've advised us of changes in recent protocols writ large through law enforcement. We learn from one another, and we share best practices that each school district has with one another. So the answer to many of your questions is yes, there are protocols in place. Yes, the protocols do have to account for our complete range of students. Yes, we do share best practices with one another. And we know that this is ongoing work. And so I'm happy to report that there are choices that at times districts make, and sometimes that is related to their particular needs in their community. So there isn't always a one-size-fits-all. But the good news is that the support that we have gives us a lot of great feedback on how to improve our practices.
I just want to say, Lucy, thank you, and Matt. As a parent, also as a Board of Ed member, I think that a lot of your suggestions, I hope that, I don't know how to do this.
You're fine.
That having parents, students come and in front of the board, but to talk and call, that's we're all in this together. And some of your suggestions, the task force, I think, certainly because certain things can't be said necessarily here. Please don't let that stop you from coming forth and reaching out to Dr. Hayes going forward, and intern us. And as Cindy was saying, with the information that we do get and having your feedback too helps us be take care of our children, all of our children. So thank you.
So I just want to say a couple of quick things. Obviously, from a board perspective, fiscal responsibility is something that's important, and we make sure that the burden of things is not too much for the township taxpayers. But I can assure you that as the chair of the facilities committee and a member of the finance committee, there's not been one conversation when it comes to the safety of the students that finances would become an issue for. We would be sacrificing other things for that in every meeting that I've ever been in, every meeting I've been a part of. So I know that me assuring you that doesn't give you any sense of comfort, but I'm telling you that, when we talk about things like that in our committee meetings, those are the priorities, right? Student safety amongst all things and our staff safety is amongst the top priorities that we have. So, if we have to sacrifice something else because of that, we've done that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to come to the microphone?
Good evening. My name is Kirsten Elisea, and I'm a resident of Fanwood. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my son, who's a student in the self-contained class at McGinn, as well as for the hundreds of other students in the district who receive services through either IEP documents or 504 documents. As you may not be aware, and some of you should be aware because I've emailed previously about this, under New Jersey Administrative Code, to be eligible for IDEA funding, each district board of education shall ensure that a special education parent advisory group is in place in the district to provide input to the district on issues concerning students with disabilities. In Scotch Plains Fanwood, the last CPAG meeting that was attended by district administrators was in May of 2015. In January of 2016, I reached out to the board via email regarding the lack of an active CPAG, and Dr. Ted Kozlik, who at the time was the interim director of special services, responded promptly, assuring me that he planned to hold meetings. These never happened. Last February, I reached out again via email, and Dr. Hayes called me on March 7th. I still have your voicemail saved. And she assured me that she and Mrs. Rabimbis would be moving forward on holding meetings. Over the summer, when I contacted Dr. Hayes and Mrs. Rabimbis about issues regarding ESY, I brought up the lack of a CPAG, which could address some of these systemic issues that I was describing. And neither of those requests led to any action by district administrators on the implementation of an active CPAG. In the past few weeks, I've been approached by multiple families for advice about issues relating to their individual children's special education services. Based on this, I reached out to the larger Scotch Plains community via social media. Over 75 parents joined a Scotch Plains Fanwood Special Needs Facebook group that I created in a time span of 24 hours. These are parents of students in all grade levels with both IEPs and 504s. It's obvious that there is a need to
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Your 2 minutes are up.
Okay. Can I just ask my final question then?
Okay.
My
One
request
question.
is for the elected members of the board to be willing to appoint a liaison similar to the PTA liaison to oversee the formation and function of an active CPAG to help address these needs for all of our students.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that, Dr. Hayes?
Thank you, Mrs. Elisea. So Mrs. Rabimbis and I have been discussing CPAG, and we do know that there have been parent meetings that have been held. They may not have been under the official title of CPAG because previously the CPAG that did function was under the direction of a parent who was coordinating CPAG. Our challenge is we can't have competing CPAGs. We can't have one led by perhaps you and one led by this other parent. And so Mrs. Rabimbis has reached out to SPAN and has gained insights as to a very solid process for creating a combined CPAG. She's also reached out to the parent who had been leading the CPAG, and I don't know if you have anything else you want to share regarding that, but we are very enthusiastic and are happy to have this flourish in such a way that all parents of children with special needs who wish to participate feel actively welcomed and have a voice in that organization.
In speaking with SPAN, one of the things that they advise is to, if you need to reboot your CPAG, is to have a workshop. And they sponsor the workshops, and they can come into our district and host a meeting for the parents. Each school district CPAG is led by the parents, and their formation in communicating with the district is dependent on the group. So, for example, the example she shared with me from her district is that they meet monthly on their own as parents, and then they meet their head committee meets with administrators separately from the CPAG, so that they can generate a collective form of ideas that's not attached to a specific student that they can bring to the administration. And that's something that when SPAN comes to our district to host that workshop, that we would talk about as a group to see what would be the best formation of that CPAG group for our community. They also mentioned that if there's a need for parents to do a separate advocacy group or support group, that SPAN can help us with that as well. That's not directly tied to CPAG, but could be an offshoot to CPAG. So parents who need some support can get that from one another in the community.
So stay tuned, because we are going to host that meeting with SPAN, because they've got great expertise in that area, and we are looking forward to working with them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone? Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike. I'm a Scotch Plains resident, and I have a son that's a sophomore at the high school. I just want to know how come unlike...
What was your name? I'm sorry, I didn't...
Mike, M-I-K-E, Mike.
And your last name?
Irapino.
Oh.
And I want to know, unlike other towns, how come we don't have armed police officers in the building, not sitting in cars outside? And how can anybody enter the high school in and out at any time of the day, including former students like my older son, who came to visit the high school a few years ago, who was a freshman in college at the time, just basically walked in and was said hello by the security guard, "Come on in, guys." And not was he alone, he was with 3 of his friends. So to me, as a parent, I think a lot needs to be done with the high school security. I don't know about the elementary school and the middle school. They're even more important because of the age of the kids. Sure. This town does not do enough for security for the kids, period. End of discussion. I don't want to hear about the secrets. You know, you can't give away security secrets. I totally understand it. I totally get that. But it's no secret that anybody could just walk into the school. How is that allowed in today's day and age? You heard a young man right here. Thank you, did a good job. 18 shootings in 7 weeks, and we're allowed to waltz in and out of the high school? Can somebody explain that to me?
So we did speak with Dr. Heisey regarding the deployment of the Carter monitors. We've also spoken with the police department. We do not have armed guards in our high school. That's a decision that has to be very carefully thought through. And the police department does go through our high school on a regular basis, not on a planned, predictable schedule. They arrive at the high school. Sometimes they're in marked cars sitting outside. They get out of their cars. They walk through all of our schools, and they come in unmarked cars. I spoke with your wife earlier today about the issues that she emailed me about, the specific incident regarding your college student coming back to visit. That one, certainly nobody should have allowed that to happen. We are human, and there are times when people will, not follow the protocols as strictly as they should. But we do continued training with that personnel, and to tell us now about that from, when was it, a year?
About a year or two ago. Yeah.
Isn't as helpful as if we had been informed in real time, and that's what I would ask you to do, and that's what I said to the students today.
Oh, so now it's my fault that I didn't come to you 2 years ago?
No, we're talking about moving forward. What would be really helpful to us is if something happens, report it to us right away, so we can follow up right away.
We did. When my son was left, when my son's bus broke down 2 years ago, we alerted you right away when he was dropped off on the corner of Raritan and Rahway Road. So the bottom line is, a lot of other towns in the state of New Jersey have police officers in the schools all the time. And that's the way it should be in this town. We all pay enough of our taxes, and we should have police officers in the school, not in the parking lot, not driving through once in a while, in the schools. Woodbridge Township does it, many other townships do it, and I want it done. I pay a lot of taxes along with the other people here.
Don't need to raise our voices.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
upset. I'm very upset. You know what? Because you know what? I already lost a child, okay? Not in the school, thank God, but I lost a child, and I don't want to lose one more, and I don't want anybody else to feel the pain that I felt all my life, okay? So you guys can say what you want up here and spin and sugarcoat this, but the bottom line is, this town does not do enough for the security of the students in this town. And Fanwood and Scotch Plains, we pay enough money that our kids should be number one. That's all I have to say. I hope I see many improvements in this town, because I'll be coming to this meeting every month or 2 weeks, wherever you have it, until I see a change in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Donna Sikola. I live in Scotch Plains, and I have a daughter in kindergarten. And I thank you, Matthew, for your comments. My concern is from a different perspective. My concern is not from police security. My concern is from the perspective of prevention. He mentioned the mentally ill child who comes back and does this many years later. As we know, the student who perpetrated this horrible, horrible event, this atrocity, was a victim of bullying. What is being done to monitor or determine the mental health issues at the grade school level when aggression, intimidation, bullying, harassment are coming to the attention of the administrators to protect the grade schoolers, because these grade schoolers are going to eventually go through the system and integrate with the rest of the other schools. And either the victim or the bully one day may come back. And we don't want Scotch Plains to be in the news 10 years from now. And I want to know what's being done to monitor them at the grade school level to make sure this doesn't happen.
Are you asking how we handle bullying?
How you handle aggression, intimidation, and harassment when administrators are aware of complaints issued by a number of parents.
So, again, and I want to say in New Jersey, certainly there's a code of conduct, and teachers and principals are very concerned about the interactions among students. And part of the responsibility is not only content, but teaching respect and appropriate behavior, how to communicate, and so forth. But New Jersey also has a very extensive harassment, intimidation, and bullying law, which we have taken very to heart here. And I can't remember when we have our annual report too, because it addresses not only all the things that we do in terms of some things fall under the HIB law, and some things are just code of conduct issues that don't fall within that law specifically, but we do so many programs and a number of them at the elementary level related to character building and those kinds of things. The report is amazing about some of those, and maybe Dr. Hayes would like to address some of those specifically.
So we do take concerns about children's behavior very seriously. And we do it from two ends. We have a very proactive stance in terms of bringing programs in and working with children to help give them the appropriate guidance. But we also address specific concerns about specific children. We have anti-bullying coordinators who work in our schools who do investigate specific complaints about individual situations. Fortunately, at the elementary level, what is sometimes considered to be harassment turns out to be more conflict among elementary school children because of their age. But once we determine that, we do work with the school administrators and with the staff to help remediate those conflicts and work with children in that regard. If children over time show that they have stronger needs than that, we do work with school psychologists and social workers. We have a wonderful social worker that is housed at the high school who oversees our entire anti-bullying efforts in the district. And she does an amazing job. I see the students nodding their head yes about that, the high school students who know her well. But she works in all of our schools. She's housed at the high school, but she's a resource to all of us in all of the schools. Any reports of harassment, intimidation, and bullying are not only thoroughly investigated, but I get all of those reports. I review all of them in great detail, and then I report out to the board in executive session on all of those incidents. And you'll see on the board agenda, the board has to affirm the outcomes of those cases. So they take that responsibility seriously, as do I. Prevention is always the best part of this work, and to that end, at least once a year, Ms. Taggart comes to our board meetings and she reviews all of the programming across the district that we use to prevent behaviors that we would not want to see happening. They range everything from, programs at the elementary school where we have peer groups working with one another. They give them various names. There are buddies at recess that reach out to children that otherwise might be left out of play, all the way up through the high school's Green Dot program. There's a wide range of programming. It's too much for me to list today for you, but when she comes and gives the report, it's quite extensive. We share that report with the board, and then at our monthly administrative meetings, we work with our administrators to get input from them. One of the initiatives that came out of our strategic plan this year is a focus on student wellness. Across the nation, we are seeing increases in student anxiety. It's not just here in Scotch Plains, it's everywhere. And so we're challenged to figure out how best to help the students and how to support the parents who are working with their children who have these high levels of anxiety. Part of our strategic plan this year, in writ large, one of the goals was student wellness, but connected to that specifically this year, we are analyzing all of those programs and we're evaluating which ones need support and greater emphasis and which ones perhaps over time we need to let go of so that we can concentrate our efforts more productively. And Mrs. Rabimbis is leading that group that will be assessing all that we're doing. That assessment will lead to program changes where needed for next year, because you have to first look at what you're doing now, what you need to change, and the best mechanism for moving forward with that. But that initiative came to us from the community with the support of the board through our strategic planning, and we're very happy to see that moving forward.
I know also, if I can add, I know, we have a very comprehensive system of child behavioral health care in New Jersey. I know because I work for it in my professional life. And I know in speaking with Mrs. Rabimbis that when there are kids that are identified as having very high mental health needs that maybe cannot be comprehensively addressed by the district, those kids are able to be served by the system of behavioral health care and referrals are made. So I know that there's an eye, on those needs as well.
Is it the administrator's duty to identify those children after a number of complaints have been issued about the child?
The administration does identify children where there are concerns over time, and they work very closely with the parent of the child. It has to be a collaborative relationship. It's not just one way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming tonight, and if you have other things that you'd like to reach out about, please do that in the meantime. Anyone else who wants to come to the microphone?
I just wanted to add, while she's talking, I was just going to add for you that the range of interventions that you might hear about at the, or you won't hear about them probably, but at the elementary school level can be referral, like Mrs. Suriani said, all the way down to reading a story, getting a small group together, getting a social skill. Like, there are lots of different options that are tailor-made to those kids. And the idea is to catch something early so that you can help a child. And there are lots of ways to do that we hear what the different interventions are, so it could be as, a book or a walk with the school nurse or something, or up to, we've tried all these things, now we need something more.
I do understand that. and
Yeah, so there is a range too
I
of things.
understand that, but my daughter is in kindergarten, and she unfortunately has been the victim of that, and they are going through the book stage and whatnot, and there has been a number of complaints.
Okay, so if there are specific things, certainly reach out to the superintendent, because referrals come from all kinds of places. So, thank you. So if there's no one else, we're going to move on to committee reports. I know we have one from curriculum. Dr. Kulikowski?
Thank you, Doug. Okay, from the Curriculum Committee, we met on Monday, February 5th, and the members of the committee met with John Veninger, who is a supervisor for mathematics. We talked about Intro to Computer Programming, which is a course open to anyone using the Python language, and it's a blended classroom using Adhesive. Menmet Kudria, computer science teacher, also shared her experience with the students in the course and expressed the students, both male and female, enjoy the course, and it includes an in-class video lesson prior to working on lessons and an assignment for the day. The committee also heard from Mr. Veninger about the AP Computer Science Principles, which is a new Year 2 course with no prereqs. It's open to anyone. It has collaborative projects, and it's not just about programming. And it also has a portfolio of work that is completed by the students. Next, we heard about the AP Computer Science A, which is a reboot of this course so that the standard alignment could be updated for the course. It is also open to anyone. This one uses the Java language, and it's also a blended classroom using Adhesive. Next, we heard from Supervisor Kate Rossander for the special programs. Yeah, Supervisor of Special Programs. And for the year 2017-2018, there was a revision of the preschool progress reports, and the rating scale had been changed to a frequency approach, which is rather than a developmental approach, in order to better communicate each child's progress. And the area for the narrative is enhanced to elaborate and explain the observations. Next, we heard from Dr. Mast. And Dr. Mast was updating us on the visit on February 7th and 8th that was upcoming, that happened last week. 10 members of the Tri-State Consortium Consultancy were invited to come here to Scotch Plains, to the district, to provide feedback and support for our writing programs, such as Dr. Dumaresk and the students spoke about earlier. The feedback was sought for these essential questions. To what extent are these practices being implemented throughout the district? And also, how can we enhance the implementation of these practices? Dr. Mast had also invited a special guest, art teacher Barbara Prestridge, who provided an opportunity for all of the committee members to explore the art bin, which was provided as evidence for that visit upcoming. And we were able to see the comprehensiveness of the writing coupled with the art experience that she had developed for professional development throughout the district. In fact, several bins, one of which being the art, were made available to the consultancy so the members could peruse them during their visit to explore the writing and arts integration. And lastly, Dr. Mast also provided to us the 2016-2017 New Jersey School Performances Report that comes out each school year, and they are available online for review. The document can be seen at rc.doe.state.nj.us www.searchforschool.aspx. And these are on the website also. The guide to explaining the points of data on the summary reports also has a website there, which is also available on the website. And the summary reports include indicators such as student progress, graduation rates, 2- and 4-year college attendance, with new data included for updated school narratives, full and half-day pre-K and kindergarten reporting, as well as chronic absenteeism by grade, subgroup, and progress towards statewide goals. And if you want more information, again, this is on the website, www.nj.us/education/ESSA. The New Jersey Department of Education seeks input to improve usability of reports and provide feedback. There's also an email address, or you can use surveymonkey.com/r/V5WKDYD. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions about anything? I know a number of you are on that committee, so thank you. Okay, thank you very much. You always have very interesting meetings. Do we have other committee reports? Okay, that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Tonight, as one of the additions to the agenda, we do have an out-of-district placement for your approval. This will place a student at Somerset Secondary Academy. And we have that asterisk. We'd like approval of that this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. 2S, at our next meeting, I will ask the Board of Education to affirm the superintendent's decisions in the 4 harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases that were reported to the board in executive sessions on January 18th and January 30th. 3S, tonight I would ask that the board approve a field trip. Our high school students in the choir, approximately 92 of them, would like to travel to Carnegie Hall in New York City on April 8th. They will be hearing a choral performance by Eric Whittaker. He was one of the leading contemporary choral composers whose music is particularly loved by high school students. And we'd like approval of that this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. 4S, at our next meeting, I would like the Board of Education to approve the following courses, the course proficiencies for H2461, Intro to Computer Programming, H2460, AP Computer Science Principles, and H2450, AP Computer Science A. 5S, at our next meeting, I would like the board to approve the 12-month employee calendar now that we've developed the student calendar for the 2018-19 school year. The 12-month calendar works off of that. In addition, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Abstain.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Mrs. Saradaki, that brings us to the business functions.
Yes, item 1BUS, I would like the board to vote on this evening. That's approval of staff training. I'd like the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated February 15th, 2018.
So
Is
moved.
there- Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
2BUS, I'll ask the board to vote on next week. That is the acknowledged receipt of the following disbursement listings for the month of January 2018. And these are our student activity accounts, petty cash accounts, and such. 3 BUS, I'll be asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the district's fire and security drill reports for the month of January 2018. 4 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve additional related services from private vendors for the 2017-18 school year, and that's for a neuropsychological evaluation and home instruction. 5 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve renewing our participation in the Educational Data Services Incorporated for cooperative bid purchasing for 2018-19 school year for a fee of $13,090. 6 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve vendors for Rep Theater production for a total, these are musicians that play with the some of our students, and that's in the amount of $4,880. 7 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary's reports, treasurer of school fund reports, and budget adjustments for the month of January 2018. And 8 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve bills for the period of January 26, 2017 through February 22nd, 2018. We'll have that amount at the next board meeting. And then on additions to the agenda, I'd like the board to vote this evening on the receipt. You previously received the 2018-19 tentative budget calendar. Because of changes at the governor's office as to when state aid numbers are going to be released, we will need to change the March 13th board meeting to March 19th. And I'd like the board to vote on that change.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We really don't have any choice because the governor, with the new governor, is allowed extra time to give us the date, and there really is no time to meet except
Of either Friday or Monday night.
Friday night or Monday night. So
Yeah.
Monday night, we'll change all our calendars for March 19th.
We'll be
Okay.
advertising that then next week, too.
Yes. Did we vote? We voted, right?
Yes.
Okay. So comments and questions on, for Mrs. Saradaki on the items that we'll be voting on next week?
I just wanted to ask, what do we hear from the state about the budget? No, any date, so the dates have changed, but are they moving? Any sense of what we're going to get or anything coming through yet?
No.
Nothing? Okay.
No. The governor's address will be on the 13th of March. State aid numbers will be released on the 15th. That's normally after 5 o'clock. On the 15th, which is a Thursday.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday. And then we have to be able to submit our budget to the county by Tuesday, the 20th. So, but no, we haven't heard anything about, there's all sorts of speculation, but it's different wherever you hear it, so.
Yeah. Anyone else? I had a couple of, under the educational data services, that $13,090, is that the same as it was last
I believe
year?
so.
Or
It's very close to the
It's
same.
approximately the same, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
I will have to look up the number. I can have that for you next week.
Okay. And the musicians, that really comes out of the tickets
Yes.
sales? It's not, the board's not financing
No.
that? I think those were my two questions. Okay, that moves us to board policies. Okay, Mr. Murray, thank you.
Step in for Amy.
Thank you.
So, seeking approval at the next meeting to approve the second and final reading for 2008 for adoption of the following board policies. Policy 0169.02, board member use of social networks. Policy 3437, military leave. Policy 4437, military leave. Reg 5460.1, high school transcripts. Policy 5516.01, student tracking devices. Regulation 7101, educational adequacy of capital projects, Policy 7425, lead testing of water in schools, Policy 9242, use of electronic signatures, which have all been, everybody has kind of copies of those policies, regulations, and this is the second time we've been speaking about them, so.
Yes, thank you very much. Is there any new board business? Other board business, requests to attend workshops or workshop reports? Okay, so next month, we'll need someone, next meeting, we'll need someone to read the resolution for Youth Art Month. We'll be approving the minutes. We have one more opportunity. If there's anyone from the public who would like to come to the microphone, according to policy 0164, 0165, please state your name, the town in which you reside, and we do have a 2-minute limit. Seeing no one, we're going to move to the good of the order. Is there anyone for the good of the order this evening?
I have the good of the order.
I know, you raced in.
I know. Prior to this meeting, I was at Raritan Bay at the YMCA there, where the girls' swim team defeated Chatham in a very close meet, 89-81, and are now the state sectional champions. They will be going on to next Tuesday. There's something above that. I guess it's a state regional championship. I'm actually not sure, but they will be swimming again on Tuesday. If they win, then the absolute state final is Saturday, February 24th. So all the girls did wonderful, and what I like about high school sports is what I like about swimming. It's a team sport because every place matters. It's 1 through 6 and 1 through 5 all get points. So everybody matters. It's a real team sport. So I was very happy that I was there. So that's my good of the order.
Very good. Okay, anyone else for the good of the order?
We have beautiful new artwork.
I know, I was going to comment on the artwork too. I did want to say that our ice hockey team is in the state playoffs.
Yes, they are.
And so I think the schedule was just announced, so we can look at that and keep our fingers crossed, see how they're doing. And I did just want to highlight that we have the opportunity to be parts of things like Tri-State, where we have the chance to really compare notes with other high-performing districts and to ask them to be critical friends, and that this is happening in multiple areas, but things like curriculum this week. And so.
And Park Middle School students at the opera.
Oh, yes. Park Middle School students went to hear it. I don't do French. Can you say it? Who can say it?
Not in French.
The elixir of love.
The elixir d'amour.
Yeah, but it was a wonderful performance, and we're very fortunate that we have the opportunity to connect our students with the Metropolitan Opera. And if you haven't been to a 3D Live, you don't have to go into New York City. You can go to a local theater, and you have the added benefit of seeing them move all of the staging and set up between acts, and to also have see close-up interviews with the singers. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
It's great.
I just want to add too, I think, was it only last week that we had our Board of Ed PTA
Yes.
coffee? Was last week, one evening, and that was open to the public, and
Tuesday the 6th.
okay, Tuesday the 6th. And some members of the community came out, and actually Dr. Hayes patiently went through the whole strategic plan with the public that came out and kind of explained all the initiatives that were developed by the public at the several meetings we had. And I think it was really informative, and it highlighted our collaboration with the PTA, and I think it was a good evening.
Yes, I have some notes here. You talk about being patient, and I would encourage people to take advantage of opportunities like that to come and talk. But some of the questions revolved around block scheduling, coding, district goals, technology, a thank you about the Screenagers film, and new building in town, pay for play, all kinds of different questions. So it was a very busy evening. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. We look forward to those opportunities, and we really appreciate the collaboration with the PTA in making some of those available in addition to the regular superintendent coffees and so forth. Anyone else for the good of the order?
One more.
Yes.
Also talking about Park Middle School, they had a career day on February 2nd. So they had exploration of careers, and I did participate in that with the 8th grade students among several other presenters.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
great. Students were wonderful. So many questions.
Very good. And what profession were you representing?
Dentistry.
Yes, I wanted you to say it.
And the
Everyone
Board of Ed.
would
I gave
know.
a plug for the Board of Ed, too.
Okay. Anyone else for the good of the order? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you at the next meeting.